Warning of human rights abuses in Ethiopia's Tigray, the G7 nations have condemned the killings, sexual violence and forced displacement of residents. In a joint statement, the group of leading nations has called for the swift withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Ethiopia's conflict-hit northern Tigray region. The most powerful economies have condemned the killings of civilians, sexual and gender-based violence. The group said that withdrawal of Eritrean forces from Tigray must be swift, unconditional and verifiable. We urge parties to the conflict to provide immediate, unhindered humanitarian access. We are concerned about worsening food insecurity with emergency conditions prevailing across extensive areas of central and eastern Tigray. We stand ready to support humanitarian efforts and investigations into human rights abuses, unquote. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent troops into Tigray on the 4th of November after accusing the Tigray People's Liberation Front of attacking an Ethiopian military camp. Residents of several Tigrayan cities and towns told agencies that Eritreans appeared to have actually ramped up their presence in some areas. Tigray's interim leader Molunega said that withdrawal was a process and would not happen immediately. According to a resident, at least 4 truckloads of Eritrean soldiers have arrived in the town of Idaga Hamus since last weekend. More Eritrean troops have also recently arrived in the town of Senkata. Access restrictions for humanitarian workers, researchers and journalists have made it difficult to determine the death toll for the fighting so far. But countless reports have emerged of massacres, extrajudicial killings and sexual violence. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have accused Eritrean troops of massacring hundreds of people in the Tigrayan town of Aksum in November. Abiy's government has said it is committed to investigating such crimes. Joining us on this broadcast is Samuel Getchu, who's joining us from Addis Ababa, who's a journalist with newspaper The Reporter. Samuel, the government of Ethiopia says that it is committed to investigating the crimes that are happening in Tigray, but why isn't the government of Ethiopia asking the Eritrean troops to leave the region?
The Prime Minister, as you may have seen a week ago, announced that the withdrawal of the Eritrean soldiers will be happening very soon. But again, there are many allegations that they haven't really gone to within their own borders, but also of allegations that are being made and the videos we've been watching. The government insists they're going to do a full investigation and bring some of these actors to some kind of justice. But then again, you also have to know Ethiopia is not a really rich nation. Even the US hasn't really investigated all the crimes that happened in places like Iraq. So for Ethiopia to investigate all these crimes and bring them to justice is at the end a wishful thinking than a reality for most people.
You know, the reports emerging are horrific. There are reports of massacres being carried out, rape being used as a weapon of war. There's extensive food insecurity. Do humanitarian groups have any kind of access to the Tigray region?
They do have access, but however, very limited. It's not the whole region that's accessible to non-governmental organizations, but the government says they're going to open humanitarian access, but just has been opened as fully as expected. Now,
why are Eritrean troops in Tigray in the first place?
Well, the explanation that was made by the Prime Minister is they were trying to keep their own interest intact. There was fear that they might be attacked by the TPLF. But again, from day one, the Prime Minister had a very close relationship with the leadership in Mara. And that's one of the reasons why he won the Nobel Peace Prize. So it's, there are both sides. You only have to pick one or try to understand. But there are many sides to the story. And this conflict is producing many conclusions for all of us watching the distance. And
Samuel, there are many sides to a story, but there can be only one fact, that is that the people of Tigray are suffering. They are the ones who are suffering. What's the death toll and what are the amount of people that have been displaced by this conflict?
You also have to know between the Eritrean government and the Ethiopian government, there is a common enemy, which is the TPLF leadership that they've been trying to attack from day one. The Prime Minister has said the real enemy is TPLF leadership, and they're trying to find the leadership and bring them to some kind of justice, whatever that means. But as of now, thousands of people have died. There's no official number. We can only speculate how many people have died. But in terms of victims, in this kind of circumstances, you have to believe the victims that are heading to the Sudan. They're saying the same thing. All of security is a luxury in the region. There are lack of resources. Famine is it's in the future of the region. So again, it's a disaster we're watching from a distance, and some of us are hoping to be able to go to the region and speak to the victims. But even the Ethiopian government has recognized that things are happening in the region that are really affecting the image of Ethiopia. But the Prime Minister said, all hope this conflict will end sooner than later.
Right. Samuel, thank you so much for joining us with the latest updates on this tragedy that is really taking place in Tigray. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.